Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons.
If you ask me, Paulo, what is in being in the world, in you, that calls your own attention to you, I would say to you that I am a curious being. That I have been a curious being. But in a certain moment of the process of being curious, in order to understand the others, I discover that I have to create in myself a certain virtue.
Transformative learning refers to the kind of learning in which people become critically reflective of their own assumptions that they've taken for granted, which has led to their beliefs and values and sense of self. Most of us take for granted these things and feel strongly about some of them, but never look critically and objectively at how we acquired them and whether they were really justified to begin with. There is need for people to understand, to learn how to think for themselves. I don't know how else you help somebody think for yourself, except to help them become critically reflective of their own assumptions.
The process of perspective transformation. A disorienting dilemma, self-examination, critical assessment of assumptions, recognizing shared nature of experience, exploring options for new ways of acting, planning a course of action, acquiring knowledge and skills, provisional trying on of new roles, building competence and self-confidence, reintegration into society.
We were sitting in class, and one of the comments by one of the professors was that opinions are of no value. And part of the work that I do is working with teachers to grow and change. And one of the things that I've learned through experience, as well as through reading some research, is that the way that teacher change happens is that they have to reflect on their own beliefs and their practices, and their beliefs are opinions. And so in the work that we do, we really focus on listening to their, what I call their inside theory or their internal theory, and making sense of that. And then everything else, the research or whatever I have to say or another trainer has, his teacher has to say, is outside theory. And in my work, we really valued both, and we've tried to create a safe space for both of those, because a lot of times people just go to the outside theory and they think that's the only thing that's of great value. And then when they go to apply it, it doesn't always work because it's not really coming from the inside. I'm starting to reflect on myself and what I value, and do I really want to cut off that voice? Or how do I handle that voice? And I'm looking forward to learning a lot more about how to do qualitative research. And I'm also wondering how, after this process of going through this whole education process here for this doctorate, how is it going to be to come back into my world and both maintain the inner theory, the value of inner theory, but participate in this research-based outside theory community.
Thinking back to some disorienting dilemmas that I had about a week ago when I first entered the program, I was dealing with things like moving into a dorm for the first time since I was an undergrad more than 10 years ago, and how it felt weird to be living in a dorm room. There was no bed sheets on the bed, and it was just very uncomfortable. I didn't know where to go, the big new city. And at the same time, I was looking at a mountain of books to read, and where do I begin reading? What things do I start with first? Later, looking at, should I invest time in meeting new people, the new cohort, or should I spend time getting up to speed with how to use the online software that the rest of the cohort was using? I continue to think about my role in society myself, and how I will define myself as an adult educator. It's not just as a professional working in the state of Massachusetts, it's as a professional who is part of this thing called AEGIS and who is a doctorate student at the same time, professional practitioner. And I think that is encouraging and also exciting. It's an exciting time for me.
I came into AEGIS with an idea of, I think, what it means to be a doctoral student and sort of, how you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to produce. I guess my assumption is that I thought I had a clear idea, and then when I think what's a challenging workload and a challenging sort of, a challenging 3-week curriculum kind of butts up against that, then I was forced to sort of examine my assumptions about, what it meant to perform in a program like this. And so, I think I've just been in that stage of kind of exploring and planning a new course of action, not so much for, I think, what it means to be a grad student, but what it means to be a scholar and, learning how to engage with readings in that way and to think long term about, what I want to do with my research. That's not about, getting all those readings done every page on time and banking that knowledge, but more about sort of applying it and finding what works for me. I think I've learned that I have a lot to learn still. That I have a lot to learn in terms of working with a diverse group of colleagues. I have a lot to learn about what works for me in my own learning and the best way to approach what I see as a pretty challenging curriculum.
I came in with a certain set of assumptions, my own assumptions in my head, maybe biases, assumptions, and I realized that those were not what it ended up being. I didn't expect to have this level of closeness with the students in the small groups, and I didn't plan on telling anybody about myself, really. It was kind of just a thing where I felt like, let me do the 3 weeks of the intensive summer seminar and program and then go home and continue about my life and then see these people once a month for the next 2 years and then summer again or whatnot. But in our life history class, when I sat down and talked with some of the group members, I noticed that I was revealing more of myself and felt comfortable. But then as they revealed their self, I felt a connection there. And I didn't expect to have that connection, especially the connections about feelings of loss, losing a parent or, parents being divorced or things like that, having a child for the first time. I started to feel, which I did not expect to feel. And I remember that day reflecting and saying to myself later, like, wow, I'm never going to assume certain things about people or certain programs or certain geographic locations because everyone pretty much has the same type of connection one way or another, and nobody's experience negates the other. I learned to listen more, be involved in the listening process, which I always felt that I was a good listener, but now I see that I need to strip away all those other elements and all those barriers in order to truly, truly listen. And once you're able to compartmentalize that process, you're able to grow. Me speaking personally, I'm able to grow, and I feel like I've grown over the past few weeks, which may be a cliche, but I still feel as though I was able to grow in a significant way. That would be my transformative experience relating to AEGIS.
Essentially, prior to AEGIS, I just really felt like I was never really afraid to say something challenging to someone, not in like an affrontive way, but in a clarifying way, just to see if they could dig a little deeper with their thinking. And so that was a role that I felt pretty comfortable with. And I like how it builds connections and makes people feel more comfortable and friendly and appreciative. And so I just kind of figured that that would be the kind of role that I would fall into in AEGIS. So I was really surprised with how nervous I was in the group, and how instead of jumping in and trying to offer that same kind of service to our cohort, I really was sitting back and watching and being very tentative and literally just feeling nervous. So my disorienting dilemma was really when another cohort member was telling me about an experience that they had that was disorienting, and we're bringing up all of these really neat and probing issues and questions, and really diving in and challenging our discussion by saying these things that were personal and clarifying and just very raw and deep. And it struck me in that moment that this person was really playing the kind of role that I thought I would be, and by comparison I realized how tentative and reserved I was being in the group because I really was frightened or nervous. It just reminded me that that I would like to be more active and participatory in helping to create the kind of learning environment that I want to be in, and just to kind of be more brave and take more risks in what I'm offering to the group or to each individual in the group. And that really, I think I am observant, I try to be, and I think I try to really get a good sense of someone and offer that back to them. At least that's what I do in my work. And so I think by the example of this other person in the cohort, it showed me that I can do that here too, just as they did. And so I haven't really done it as much as I would hope, but it's setting me on the path to have that kind of effort, or put that kind of effort into the process. More of myself, like being more open and taking more risks that way, I guess.
Our transformation.
Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons, the Transformers.
Are you ready to be transformed? Well, let's just figure this out together. OMG. I bet you are wondering, what in the HELL is transformative learning? Keep it simple, stupid. Oh, excuse me, I mean keep it simple, sweetie. Yes, sweetie, yes, yes. Jack Mezirow describes the process of perspective transformative by a disorienting dilemma, self-examination, critical assessment of assumptions, recognizing shared nature of experience, exploring options for new ways of acting, planning a course of action, acquiring knowledge and skills, provisional trying on of new roles, building competence and self-confidence, and reintegration into society. Anything else you want or need from me? Save your questions, please.